All right, welcome back, folks, to another episode of A Little More Light. And yes, your host, Kevin, is doing an introduction.
For the first time in forever.
Okay, so I know that song is from Frozen, but you had to tell me it was from Frozen.
I did, yeah.
And I also have to admit, I've never seen it.
That just blows my mind that you've never seen Frozen. But I guess you are a dude and you had a brother and you guys probably didn't think about princesses.
Yeah, we were all like Bionicles, and I think Bionicles was before Frozen, but we were all Star Wars and all that. And like, I think on 2, it was one of those movies that everyone talked about. And so I think everyone was talking about it, and I was like, I don't want to see it.
But I also just don't think you would have gone to the theater to see Frozen by yourself or with your friends.
Never. But I can admit, honestly, I was never even seeing it in the comfort of my own home.
That is crazy. I feel like that's maybe something that we need to watch this weekend. Just for your own cultural experience.
I think we have a better weekend plan than watching Frozen.
Yeah. We're going to, fun fact, we're going to an apologetics conference called All About God and Technology, which is going to be really exciting. We're pumped for that.
We are.
Probably next week we'll talk about it after we've learned.
All my wisdom will come from that conference.
All Kevin's wisdom. Yeah, exactly. But another fun fact, which is kind of crazy, I don't know if it's exciting or not, but today when this podcast comes out, we will officially be 1 year into waiting for our immigration to go through.
Nice.
365 days since we sent all of, pretty much my life's information and every single detail possible to the U.S. government.
Yep. And the U.S. government's still just hitting on all that information.
Why don't you tell them what you told me about what I do?
Yeah, I have some great theories. But one of my theories is, so they say it takes 12 to 16 months for your immigration. First part, this is just the first part. There's 2 more steps to this. They say that it takes 12 to 16 months for this part to be approved. I think, maybe because it's a government thing, I think no one inside whatever organization looks at it that doesn't even be looking at it until it hits that 12-month clock. And then it goes into another little bit, and then maybe the opportunity to look at it. Unless like you're super important and you just bypass the entire immigration.
Yeah, which we are not, unfortunately. But
we are doing it the legal way.
Yes. They say it takes about 13 to 15 months to hear back from this first step.
Yep.
And then we get the opportunity, once we're approved, to go to the second step. And then after that's approved, then I get my interview date. I go for my interview. Then I get my green card sent. And we move on from there.
So if any of you are looking to become a green card holder in the great United States of America or any country.
In Canada, too, it's the same process.
Yeah, it takes a long time. I'm thinking it's going to be 15 and a half months or longer just because our governments are a little preoccupied right now.
Yeah, with a lot of issues that we briefly touched on last week.
Check out our podcast.
Yeah, but lots of unknowns, but we're just really praying that the Lord intervenes quickly and that there is not too much damage done on either side.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want this beautiful couple to be together in the same?
I know, right? Jeez, that was a good little comment there. Okay, let's ask the people. How about this, Kevin? What do you guys think? Over or under 15 months till we hear back for this first part? You said over.
Hitting the over.
I think it's going to be like 14 and a half. I think it's going to be like 1 month sooner than you. That's what I'm thinking. So over under 15 months, leave us a comment. Let us know. But that being said, since we were talking about this week and it's been a years-long waiting experience, we thought it would be maybe an interesting topic today to talk about waiting seasons.
That's a great idea, Danielle.
Did you comment about it? So do you think you can?
Well, you looked at me like you wanted me to say something, so I just said.
No, you usually have such insightful things.
I know. I panicked.
To say you panic. Okay. But I think like in the large part, actually, I don't even think this. I know this, that every single person goes through a waiting season, and most likely you are currently in a waiting season right now. And waiting seasons, to be honest, some of them just really suck.
Yeah.
And they're hard. And you don't always know when the end is going to be. You don't know when the end's going to come.
It's called waiting.
That is literally why it's called waiting. You don't often feel like you have control, I think, over when that desired outcome is going to happen, if that desired outcome is going to happen. And I think a lot of times it's just a lot of unknowns, right? And we can get lost in that. We can struggle in that. We can isolate ourselves in that. We can, I think, lose a lot of hope in that. But if we are all going through a waiting season, and if waiting seasons are a part of life, which Kevin and I believe that they are, there must be a better way to get through them, right? And to handle them and to manage them. The Bible says, I think it's Isaiah 40, verse 31. It says that those who hope on the Lord will renew their strength. And I think waiting seasons, waiting and hope have so much, like they're tied to one another. That while you're waiting, you are also hoping for this thing to happen. And I think in order to start even trying to get through your waiting season, you have to hope on the Lord. And you have to have God in your waiting season. But that is easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a waiting season isn't something that is supposed to be easy because waiting is all about like growing dependency. Um, and it can be in anything, right? Like I'll use the running example just because that's what I'm doing all this time, but like, and I'm waiting for the day that I can run this marathon, but yet like I just can't wait passively. Like I have to do things during this time to get to the end of this waiting season.
So true.
Literally like have to do things to build endurance.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times waiting seasons is all about building endurance.
Yeah.
It's building into something, growing deeper into something, learning something about yourself. Like often in the waiting season, you learn more about yourself and you come to the reality of looking yourself in the mirror and maybe even looking at your weaknesses more than
Your strengths.
your strengths.
Yeah, because I think waiting really can strip you of your pride in a lot of ways and in your own strength. And it strips things back to the point of like, can I keep hoping for this? Can I keep desiring this? Can I push myself anymore to one day achieve this thing that I really want? And that's actually such a good example because it's so true. Like you cannot just show up to your marathon and expect that all that waiting is going to have paid off. Because if you wasted your waiting, you will fail at running your marathon.
Yeah.
That is so true. I love that example.
Yeah. There was in preparing this, like I read a quote from C.S. Lewis and he said that God has not been trying an experiment on my faith or love in order to find out their quality. He already knew it. It was I who did not. So it's like in waiting, we often come face to face with our own hearts, like learning what the true value of it is.
Yeah.
And so like in a waiting season, one of the questions to ask yourself is like, how long am I really truly willing to wait?
True. That's good.
That's good, Kev.
That's good. That's really good, Kevin. And how, I guess that would then be how important is this thing that you're waiting for to you? Because there are things, I know, like in my life, like previously, things that I've hoped and I've waited for have taken years to come to pass.
Yeah, I mean, like think about your Tokyo.
Yo, yeah, like just even going to the Paralympics, like 13 years of hoping and not sitting at home on my bed hoping that I could go to the Paralympics, but it was actively training, actively, pushing your body to limits that are beyond what the normal human can usually do.
Yeah.
Right. And it's dedication, it's choice, it's discipline, it's perseverance, it's crafting endurance. But how badly do you want to wait for that?
If you knew it would take you 13 years to make it to the Paralympics, would you have done it? Honestly.
I mean, I'd like to say yes. I That's a really good question. I think I would, yes, I would do it. But if I would have known how hard those 13 years would have been, I don't know. Like, I think having that end, achievement of being a Paralympian, I wanted that and I wanted to work for that. And so, yes, but if I would have known how disappointing the almosts on the way to that would have been, I don't think that's a harder thing. Yeah.
And so I would say you are able to enjoy the fruits of that waiting season a whole lot more because you didn't know in the waiting season how long it would take. Yet you did everything that was required of you to wait well.
Yeah. Yeah, really. Because I think if we're going to talk about waiting well is not a passive experience.
It's not.
And it's an active thing. Waiting is active. Waiting requires something of you. It requires your heart. It requires, I think, if this is a desire of your heart, you want to make sure that it is also lining up with God's desire for your life. And you want to increase your trust in that. You want to exercise faith in that, just in the same way that, faith is not passive. Faith is active. It is actively choosing, to go after something with this understanding that it might take a while. It might show up tomorrow, but you're pursuing it. And the pursuit is not passive.
You're going to use all the time of the waiting season to prepare, grow, and trust more.
Mm.
And I think that's the beautiful gift about a waiting season.
Yeah.
Is that we don't know the outcome. And I think for a lot of people, including myself, I would say oh wait, but that's the challenge. But really, I think that's one of the gifts that God has given us.
So true.
Because let's be honest, we're humans and we love to optimize things. We love to get to the finish line faster. We love to do things in a quicker, more efficient way if we can. That's literally what we've been doing for all of human existence. But the thing about a waiting season is you don't know when that finish line is coming. And so you have to do everything in your power, trusting in God's power that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to get through this. But you develop yourself, you develop a deeper relationship with the Lord. You do things that you might not have done if you would have known how long it would have taken.
Well, that's the process of sanctification. Right? What you're saying is that sanctifying process of becoming more and more like Christ. So we are things that are in us that can't go to where we're going are getting cut off.
That's
right.
true.
Habits that aren't gonna be okay when we become parents one day can be cut off in that waiting season as you're being refined, right? As you're being pruned back, that gardening process of cutting back branches, not because you want to get rid of the tree, but because when you cut off the dead things, then the tree has more potential to grow, and it's going to grow faster, it's going to grow healthier, and it's going to have deeper roots when you cut off that dead stuff. And that's really what a waiting season can be used for. It can be a refining process. Refining is not going to be comfortable. Usually when you refine something, you're throwing it into the fire and you're molding it, shaping it, and you're burning it up to, become better. And that's comfortable, right? I wouldn't say that, if I had really bad habits before I met you, that waiting to meet my husband and then being confronted with those bad habits and having them removed, that's comfortable, experience, in the same way as training for something or like the Paralympics, having to push yourself to that level is not comfortable. No, but as you wait and as you desire that, what you're waiting on, usually it's worth it, right? And then I think what you said, Kevin, about not relying on our own strength, we're usually stripped of our strength in a waiting season. where I think that is also God's intention in a lot of ways, because if we were to just get everything that we wanted right away, like if God was just to say yes, 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 without having that refining, sanctifying process, we wouldn't need him. We wouldn't trust him. We wouldn't have faith, right? Like faith is what we cannot see. Like that's what faith is. And so I think God uses waiting seasons to bring us closer to him, to strip us of our strength, and to be replaced by his, which is ultimately what is going to get us to the finish line.
Mhm.
That's what I'm going to say about that.
You're preaching.
Boom, boom, boom.
I'll just step back and listen.
Oh, funny. Okay, so what, Kevin, can you think back on your life when you were in a waiting season, and just like how did you approach that waiting season? Like,
Yeah, it was 2020, and I was waiting for you, obviously.
oh, we're gonna talk about that now. Okay,
Oh, I thought that's where we were going.
go for it.
No, but I would say like the time before I met you was a waiting season as I was preparing my heart, my mind, for ultimately like my future relationship. And I think I was at a time in my life where I'd been in relationships in the past, desired relationships in the past, but not necessarily understood my role in cultivating what a healthy relationship should look like. And so I think there was a time in my life for about a year to a year and a half where I was really focused on growing myself and my relationship with God. So it was as simple as, sounds simple, but it became simple. Waking up at 5 every day and spending an hour and a half with the Lord, praying and journaling and asking him, questions about what I need to do to be a better man. Like, what parts of my life do I need to cultivate? What parts of my life do I need to strip away? It was a time in my life where I got around community of like-minded men who were in a similar season and who were also waiting for similar things. So I think that's an important note, is like, in a time of waiting, find people who are also waiting.
That's good.
Because when you wait together, I think you grow in strength together. And you also grow the church. Let's just be honest there.
Yeah. And can I just say this right now? Don't compare your waiting season to
Yeah,
this.
it's not about comparison at
No,
all,
yeah,
but
exactly.
it's about you guys both probably understand similar struggles and are going
Yeah.
through similar emotions. And so like community is built on vulnerability. And so when you are able to be vulnerable with one another about the waiting in which you're waiting, like I think you guys can find common ground and also help each other through it. And so that was huge for me. I found a group of men who were also, I think, hungry for the Lord, but also looking for a relationship with someone that they could share, and looking for a godly woman in their life. And then third, like, I didn't do this, but start to prepare a way for what the future could look like, and put yourself in the shoes of your future self. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, that works.
But what I mean by that is I had a friend who, at the time, I was really blown away by what he would do, but he had a journal and he would write every week or every couple weeks a prompt to like his future wife.
Wow.
I started to imagine what that life would be like, but also who he would be as a man to that future wife, right? Like how he would treat her, how he would respect her, things like that. So I think there's ways in which like God gives us glimpses into our future. And sometimes he does that through what you're doing in the present. And so there's opportunities to like, I'm not saying manifest your future by any means, but there's ways in which you can start to
Well, ask God for glimpses of it.
for
Yeah,
glimpses.
because I think like the way that he does that is through the desires of your heart. Like if he has put a desire for marriage on your heart, like that's a desire that God has as well. That you believe that, you hope for that. It's not just gonna happen necessarily, right? And it might take longer than you expected. In the same way as like children,
Yeah.
it says children are a blessing from God. Like we are called to created by God to create things. And so like children are good, but then that's a desire,
Yeah.
right? On some people's hearts to become parents. And I think when you're exactly like what your friend did, like when you're thinking about who am I gonna be when this happens? Who and am I there yet? Like, am I a person of patience for when I get into this relationship?
Yeah.
Am I someone who can like steward my money well? So when I have this responsibility of a family, then we're not draining the bank accounts because of my frivolous spending.
Yeah.
Right? I'm speaking for myself here. Like this is all issues I think and stuff that we all work on. But it's thinking about those things, right? And it's thinking about, it's good to think about who you want to be, what you want to have 5-10 years down down the road. Like, what is the desires of your heart? Because those are also desires, I think, that God sees and that He can be in them. Like when we've prayed and when we've aligned our heart with His, like we start to get the heart of God as well. Like we come into alignment with His plans. But then it's that like verse that it says that Jesus says in the Bible, "Yet not my will, but yours." And so it's that whole idea of God, I am going to choose to wait on this. I desire this. I want this. I believe this is what you have for me. Yet not my will, but yours. Like, let your will be done in my life. And as I wait for these things that I believe are from you, like, teach me, challenge me, prune me, refine me in that process so that I can be ready to step into what I believe you will be bringing into my life. And it's not like a pray it, we're going to get it. It's not a I wish this, I want that, because I think we can also be super like self-centered, I think, in our wants and in our waitings. Like, well, I need this, I need this, I need this. When in reality, what we need is we need Jesus. Like, Jesus is all that we need. Like, He is everything. And in the process of waiting and going through life and having these blessings or achieving these things, when He is in that with us, that is how we can wait, right?
Yeah, two things on that. I think like in a season of waiting, maybe parts of your life that are also flourishing.
Yeah.
Like usually a waiting tends to be one aspect of our life. And so I challenge us to find an area of your life that may be flourishing and to see that as a blessing and to also like see that as a reminder that God is working in your life.
So true.
Like going back to my example of waiting for you, and I'm very blessed that my God answered my prayer when I found you or when you found me. But like at that same time in my life, I really wanted like a wife, but at the same time, there was friendships that I've never had deeper and were flourishing, and relationships with people that I look back now and be like, thank you, God, for those. Like,
yeah, and you were serving in your church and you
and
were like in your community.
it was awesome. And so I just think it's a good reminder for us to look in periods of waiting that there still might be moments or parts of our lives that are flourishing. And the second thing to what you said, not your will, not our will, but your will be done, Lord. Like, I think it's important to touch on a little bit. Like, there will be parts of our lives that we wait for that we will never not see the end, or that we will always be waiting. And I think that's a real difficult thing to accept and to understand. But we are, both of us, you watching, you listening, like we are all part of God's perfect plan.
Amen.
And sometimes God's perfect plan will involve us, but it does not include maybe everything that has to do with us, right? Like us waiting might, when we're waiting, someone else might be having an answered prayer or having an answered waiting season, right? But that doesn't mean that our waiting is any less of importance to God. That doesn't mean our waiting is any of less value to him. But it's also important to recognize that because God is sovereign, because God is perfect, and because he works all things for good, and he has this greater master plan that we don't see, we have to accept and understand that we won't always see the end of our waiting.
No, that God is God and we are not. And we can trust him with our life. But at the end of the day, exactly what you're saying, like there will be things that we might never see happen. But we go on this journey of, discovering what true love is in Christ, what Jesus did for us with this glorious promise and this hope that we are going to be reunited and live in eternity in heaven, or if Jesus comes back in our lifetime, like world's going to be done. There's going to be there's not going to be any more waiting seats. Like we're not going to have our house. We're not going to be married in heaven. We're not going to have all those things. It'll be us in heaven with God, like as heaven comes down to earth. And so there will come a time where there will be no more waiting, and it'll be perfect, and we will have no more pain. We will have no more, any sort of disappointments or
we got to read
any
up on
divisions. Yeah, that's another good thing. Yeah, read up on heaven if you're struggling on thinking about what's to come or what's the point of waiting. That our life is just, it's like a, what is it, like a
blip or a flash.
Yeah, a flash. It's so short. And I think it would be really sad if we were just to go through life waiting for the next thing, the next thing, and the next thing, and missing the beauty of transformational growth of the life that we have been given, of the people around us, the community that we can be a part of, the person that we can become in this journey as we wait. Because I think you and I talked about this before the podcast, our whole life is a waiting season.
It is.
You are born and you are waiting till the day that you go to heaven.
The Lord picks you back up.
Exactly. And so what are you going to do while you wait?
Yeah.
Are you going to sit by passively? You can do that. That's your choice. Or are you going to get up and wait actively? Are you going to wait on the Lord? Are you going to hope in what's to come? Are you going to go after your goals with your entire heart? If you've got dreams, if you've got desires in your heart, go for them. Do that. If God's opening doors, if he's nudging you to do something, go do it. And I see that our battery on our camera is about to die.
So we should
probably end this. We don't want to wait any longer. But we love you guys. I hope this is encouraging to you. And let's continue to wait well. And we'll see you again on another episode of A Little More Light. Let's just end this.
What an abrupt ending.
What an abrupt ending. But we'll be praying for you guys. We love you. Anyways, sit with this and we'll be back next week. All right, bye.
Bye.